There's 3 dudes in this draft. Once again, 3 dudes. Bijan, Will Anderson, and Jalen Carter. That's it. Maybe the kid from Tech, Tyree Wilson. The rest of them, they're good ball players. That could help the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Getting a right guard like a Paris Johnson helps Jalen. Protects 50. You can't have a $50 million quarterback with a $2 O-line. And the Eagles don't have a $2 O-line. They got a $15 million center and 2 $15 million tackles. You want to know why Jalen Hurts is developing? How you doing? Okay. Let's go to JAKIB. And we had Mike Golick out with us in the first hour. And I presented this to him, Gary. I said, hey, man, if Jalen Carter's there at 10, knowing that you played next to JB, you knew JB as well. Mm-hmm. That's what I love about the guys I get on here. You guys all knew my friend. And he said he would take him. And I'm going to re-ask the question after all the things. Here, I'm going to ask you the most difficult question of all time, and I posted this out there, Gary. I said, after knowing all the things you know and how it ended for Jerome, would you still draft him? Knowing all the things that you know about Lawrence Taylor today, would you still draft Lawrence Taylor? Would you? I mean, hey,
yeah, without a doubt. Come on, without a doubt. There are players that come in that really draw something out of the other players that is special, and that's what really a lot of the guys had. With Jerome, was that he not only pushed himself, he pushed all the other guys around him. So there was just kind of, he made the whole thing more fun, and even though he would get in your face. He didn't have a problem. And when he came in there as a rookie, he wasn't afraid of anybody to look. Come on, man. So, and you saw the way he played in the fact that even as he was getting used to the NFL, he played hard. He was going to give you everything he had. He enjoyed it. And that's the thing is he made the work. He just brought a fun part to it, and so you had a good time with Jerome, but you were going to play hard, and he was going to call you out, and there was a kind of thing where he was going after greatness, he was going after that, and there was that hunger in there because you guys had established some things down there in Miami, and all these guys, because I got a chance to play with Michael Irvin too, and you see that same enthusiasm, where there's a, it's fun, but like I said, you turn around and you do something, this guy's in your face, and both of them had those type of leadership qualities, and they just had a magnetism and personality. That's why a team with both of those guys on it, you're going to have a team. If they're not winning the national championship, they're going to be knocking on the door every year because you got guys.
Don't you agree that team with Clyde Simmons and Reggie and Seth and even Buddy, kind of there's some similarities here because you have Brandon Graham, Cox, Jalen Hurts, Jason Kelsey, that if a kid like that gets in your building, okay, there's a set of standards that you have to live by because get this, people shit on Carson Wentz all the time. I'm going to tell you something, Gary. I think that clubhouse and that locker room has learned a lot, not letting it get sideways and off the rails any longer. And I think that was one of the greatest tests of all time for Lane and all those guys. That might be just the perfect environment for him.
I think so, because they are going to make him grow up. You're going, the certain things in this type of atmosphere, because you do have guys that come to the league where they've been the best in their area, wherever team they were on, they were so good and everything. And they could come where they still have that ability, but they've got things where they're not working hard every day. They're not doing, all of the things. And then they're leaving some things off the field, that they're not handling their business. Well, when you're around older guys who have played the game and demanded excellence out of themselves and the people they're around, that's the kind of guy you want young players. Those guys are the kind that young players can be around, and where they're going to enjoy them at the same time. They're going to call them. They're going to make them grow up. They embarrass them in front of everybody. They got no problem doing that, and make the guy grow up. And they're going to have to grow up right now because the season's not far away, and they're going to make those guys grow up, and that's what they need. And those guys, hopefully, they go to a team like that because it's going to eliminate a lot of problems that they have because they go to a place where they're the best on the field. It's not as good.
How about this one, Gary? I mean, there's a big conversation now. You and I and everybody, Philly 500, all these guys, we were talking about Bijan about a month ago on him being the right selection for this team. And I still hold to this, and I'll tell you why. Again, there's not a player in this draft that can help this team more because I wrote this down. Get this, Gary, so check it out.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders, would it be shocking if I told you he had the 8th greatest single season rushing season in Philadelphia Eagle history? That is also double-digit touchdowns. Mm-hmm. You're just not going to replace that with your quarterback now, having to take more hits with a collection of running backs. I mean, they're going to do it by committee. You didn't do it by committee last year, and that kid was still trending for 200 carries. I mean, that guy could help your football team right now. And Gary, so what if you only get 5 years out of him? If you win a Super Bowl, who cares?
That's right. Now, I tell you, the thing you mentioned, though, you mentioned Jalen Hurts. See, if drafting him means that you don't have to let Jalen carry the ball as much, that's tremendous right there because you want to take the ball out of Jalen's hands more. As I'm talking about running the ball.
Correct.
Because you do not want him getting injured. You want to take the ball out of his hands. If you had a young kid like Robinson who you could give the ball to, nearly 20 times a game, if you could do that and you don't give the ball to Jalen, come on. If that's a tremendous for this football team because you don't want Jalen getting hurt. You just want Jalen executing the offense, pitching the ball to these guys, but you don't want him getting hit. You don't want that. You want to reduce that more this year than they did last year because people are going to say, look, every shot we get at Jalen Hurts, those are the biggest plays in the game for us. They're not going to come out and say we're trying to hurt him. But, really the truth is they are. They know that's going to change the game. So they're going to pound. If they get a chance to pound them, you do not want to give teams a chance to pound on Jalen Hurts.
How about this on Friday? I didn't look at it this way, Gary, and I wonder if you do. We had Phil Simms on with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, Phil, these dual threat guys. He goes, let me tell you something. Let me stop you there. And the thinking that people don't play into this. He goes, the problem in Baltimore is that Lamar is so aggressive in how he approaches the game. The same with Josh Allen. He goes, you are a dual threat guy. You're less likely to get hurt in the open space because Phil says you have more control over the contact than you do when you're in the pocket. I never looked at it like that, Gary. He goes, hey, Lamar got hurt in the pocket. He didn't get hurt out in the perimeter. He got hurt in the pocket. You have no control of that where guys are flying around you. Do you subscribe to that? That if you
I think it's true. And see,
Jalen gets down, he's smarter.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, when they're running that, where he's faking that ball in there, and you are in a crowd there, somebody misses a block, a guy gets a shot at you, even at times if something goes wrong and you just go down on the ground, you got a guy hit you. Because I'm thinking about in the game that Jalen got hurt, I guess it was Chicago. He was in a tight area.
He was.
And the guy got a shot at him. He took his shot. And you're going to have guys take the shot. That's why
And that was probably the biggest shot of the year.
It
right?
was.
I mean, of all the times he's done really a nice job, especially on the sidelines outside of that preseason game against the Jets.
Yeah.
That was probably the biggest hit of the year for him, correct?
It was the biggest hit of the year for him. And without a question, he kept on playing, but he was hurt. And they do not want that happening this year because He is too important to the team. They don't need him missing time. They want to be able to run their offense. But I would like to see them, if you go ahead and get a kid like Robinson behind this line. I don't want Jalen carrying the ball as much.
Right.
Whatever you got to do, they got to get that. They got to get away from that. And I think drafting him, if that means taking the ball out of Jalen's hand, where you are going to have less chance of him getting injured, then I think that's worth the pick.
I want to throw this at you here. I saw something in the chat room, and I never thought about this. Tell me what you make of this. And I'm thinking of it, and I'm processing it now. How much of an impact do you think the Eagles are seeing in the drafting over these last couple of years with the miss of Justin Jefferson? How much do you think that has impacted where they are today? Think about it. You wouldn't have to pay $25 million for A.J. Brown. Yeah. You'd have two bookend wide receivers. Mm-hmm. One of them still on a rookie deal. You'd be working on, hey, that'd be another nightmare for Howie, though, because then he'd be up, and now you're talking about Jalen Hurts being up.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, how much of an impact do you think them missing on Justin Jefferson has been on their drafting over the last 5 years or 4 years?
Well, I mean, it's been huge. I mean, because they missed on him, and because of that, that you didn't even get a player that is capable of even being a decent receiver
or special teams even.
That's right. I mean, so you missed there, and when I look at the team, they really rebuilt this team, and they had to go out and get make a move like they did with A.J. Brown. And you cough up that $25 million a year. They had to do it if they wanted to have a marquee guy there, which is what you want to have if you got a young quarterback. You want some receivers where somebody's open when this guy drops back. There's going to be somebody open, and in order to go out and get that type of a marquee guy, it's going to cost you big dollars now. And so that's why you would like to be dealing with rookies, younger players, rather than a guy where you got to fork off $25 million a year for him.
How about this one, Gary? First off, have you ever, in your years playing the game, covering the game, ever seen a rapid rise like this for a player from Hurts? I mean, Gary, April 10th of last year, we're talking about whether the kid's a quarterback that can play in this league. Today, we're debating whether it's a 7 or 10 year or 6 year deal at $50 million annually. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this where a guy just climbed Everest in like 12 months? Have you seen anything like it?
I enjoyed that year last year, but it was like it was from something that was beyond earth. I mean, it was amazing year he had. I mean, the throws that he was making, the accuracy, the decisions he was making. You got to make all these decisions where he's putting that ball in there, pulling it out. But every time when to run, when not to run, and everything. He was just making great decisions all year long, and of course, culminating with the great game at the Super Bowl. But it was very rare that you see a guy make that type of move where you have that type of a year, because he was playing on an MVP level. I mean, he's playing there where he's going to be in competition to be MVP because he has such an effect of both on the passing game and the running game.
Maybe Terrell Davis from being a scout team guy to being the Hall of Fame running back, but I mean, for the quarterback position, though,
amazing year.
Gary, look at the NFC. Dak Prescott, overachiever.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, overachiever. And what I mean by that is these guys weren't drafted in the first round like you see all those guys in the AFC.
That's right.
That were drafted either the first pick, top 14. Even Mahomes was a first rounder. He's not an underachiever. He's guy, or an overachiever. I mean,
the thing is he going to do that this year? So, can he repeat? Can he stay in that same area? That's a high area.
Agree.
Meaning, like,
I think
that's the
topic, though. And Gary, though, that's why I keep asking people. So, do you really believe 17 games, Gary, is enough to give a guy $50 million over 7 years per year?
It's a lot of money.
And get this, they bombed with Wentz.
I know. The thing is, his timing, of course, the timing. Was great for him, to where he peaks like that. Prior to that, come on, so many people had doubts about him. If anybody's going to be honest, they were doubting, and they're going, "No, we don't know about this kid." Nobody was saying, "Oh, we know." Now, do I want to see him do it again? Yeah, I want to see him do it again because his decision-making, the reading, for him to make that big of a jump in 1 year, it was startling. And so it's good, there are going to be people looking to say, can he do that again?
You think he had the same uphill climb, the same thing? Because when I watched Lamar Jackson, when he took over for Joe Flacco, I went, this guy can't hit the broadside of a barn. He won't be in the league. Next year's the MVP. I'm like, holy shit. I couldn't believe it. And Phil Simms was touting. He goes, let me tell you something, man. Anybody who doesn't think that guy could throw the ball, you're nuts. I get around him. I know him. He is a ball player.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody like that, right, Gary? Lamar Jackson, because he had a big climb to the MVP. He was unanimous.
Yeah, he did. And, even though, he had a great year, but, he was making spectacular plays. From the standpoint where, he's got the speed to be able to make people miss and everything. So teams are, I think, playing him a little differently now. But the thing with Jalen was that he was spreading the ball around, and his decision-making was so superb. You wonder, can he be that good again? To make so many good decisions, whether it be throwing the ball with his handoffs, when to leave that ball in there, when to pull it out. Every play, he is making a big decision, which is a lot to ask. So that's why I think, for him to repeat that type of year, it's going to be amazing.
Hey, Gary, I'm going to here's the last thing we're hit on here. I wrote down the 10 best Eagle draft picks since 2000. I got the top 10 best Eagle picks since 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I have Devontae at 10.
Okay.
I have LaShawn McCoy at 9.
Okay.
Who was a second rounder.
Yep.
I got Trent Cole at 8, who was a 5th rounder in 2005. I have Deshaun Jackson at 7, who was a second rounder in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
At 6, Lito Shepherd, 2002, was a first rounder. I got Brandon Graham at 5, 2010, a first rounder. I got Fletcher Cox at 4, 2012 first rounder. I got Brian Westbrook, 2002 third rounder. Lane Johnson, 2013 first rounder, number 2.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason Kelsey, number 1, 6th rounder, 7.
Wow. Yeah,
you like the list?
I like that list. Of course, with Jason, being just such an amazing pick.
6th rounder.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if I'd have Lito up there as high. Because Lito was a first round pick, yeah, but you don't think
Lito lived up to the
well,
to the billing?
he became a Pro Bowler and everything, but he wasn't year after year Pro Bowler. Whereas I think somebody like Trent Cole, had a lot of good years, man.
He was a 5th rounder.
That's right. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That was a great pick. For a 5th rounder, what Trent Cole did for the Eagles, he had a lot of double-digit sack seasons. A 5th rounder, I think he should be.
How about Westbrook, a 3rd rounder in 2002?
Now, hey, I was just looking at Westbrook. About a month ago, they had the event I was at with him, and I would tell him all the time, man, I was amazed that he could carry the weight because for a while he was carrying the offense. They're giving the ball to him 30 times, little guy like that. And it probably shortened his career because he wasn't that big, but man, he ran
was
hard.
Christian McCaffrey before Christian McCaffrey.
That's right. He was.
Would you agree, Gary,
that
he's probably the most dynamic Philadelphia Eagle offensive player over a span of time than anyone they've had since 2000 outside the quarterback position. Wouldn't you
I would
agree?
say so.
Brian Westbrook had the most impact on offense.
Westbrook carried the offense. He was running the ball, and they were throwing it to him 10 times. I mean, he's carrying the ball 25 times, and they're throwing it to him 10 times. I mean, he carried that offense because he would make that first guy miss, and he would always get yardage. And for a little guy, man, he was a tough son of a gun. He really had some great seasons, but he took a pounding. It probably shortened his career because guy's not that big, man. He's that big, man.
Yeah, no, I got you. Hey, real quick before we leave here, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
At 10, if Carter and they don't move up for Anderson and they're not going to take Bijan, I don't think they would.
Yeah.
If those three decisions aren't there, hey, Gary, that guy Hooker from Tennessee is now rapidly flying up the board. Yeah. There could be 5 quarterbacks taken. If you're Howie, do you trade out of that pick for more picks to trade down and get more picks this year?
You said it. Howie's going to trade out of that pick. If somebody's coming on, they got a boatload that they're going to give him, and there could be somebody that's there, and how it's like a guy meets a girl. He gets infatuated with this girl. He can't get her off his mind. That's the way the guys are about quarterbacks before the draft. And that's probably going to happen to somebody, and then Howie's going to pick their pocket because he's going to get a lot, and I think he's going to be willing to trade down. I would not be surprised at all if that happens, because what you're saying is you see the way it's starting to happen where these guys start getting the hots for these quarterbacks,
yeah,
and then somebody's going to
move. They panic.
I just got to have him. I just got to have him. And
they panic, right?
That's what they do. That's what they do, and Howie's good with those people. And I bet you he probably already got his eye on a couple of them right now that he knows are headed that way. And they're going to be able to make that move. And Howie, he hasn't been greatest when it comes to picking, but he's done a great job in the draft because he fleeces people, man. He takes them to the cleaners. And I think he's going to be taking somebody to the cleaners at the draft this year.
Absolutely. 17 days out from the NFL draft in Kansas City. Gary, thank you, my friend. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You got it. The great Garry Cobb, who joins us every week. And we're so grateful that he joins us each and every single week. All right, hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.